you're quite correct. This is unacceptable, isn't it? Yeah, why are we over time, Greg? Whose fault is this? Who are we going to complain? Where's Tony Hewitt? Oh, you can't hear my voice. Are you timing my voice? Yes. Keep it going. All right. Okay. So welcome back after the break. We are here judging the Illustrative category, kindly sponsored by AZO. And we're also... Craig, a little bit of decorum, please, mate. You're supposed to be respecting me here. It's not timing how long it takes me to get things going. And we have our platinum sponsors, Olympus, Aeon and Panasonic to thank. And I'd like to thank Panasonic for the state that I am in at the moment because they made me a beautiful cappuccino during the break. So there's one. A few other people have found their cappuccinos. See, stick with me, I'll get you high. Anyway, something like that. Okay. So we have some people. We've got a couple of people. Ken and Miranda out the back. Lovely to have you back, guys. Thank you very much. We'll have the next print, please. We have a score of 84, a solid silver award. And Craig, since you were timing me, you have 10 seconds to illuminate us on why this is such a strong photograph and maybe what else could be done.
What else could be done? I think loosen up the crop a little bit on the bottom. I feel a bit of tension there, but I do enjoy the flow and the connection between the trees, the butterflies making leaves, and that draw out of color.
Thank you very much. 10 seconds. Well done. Do you want to make a comment? You haven't got the microphone to your mouth. Okay, quickly.
A comment?
Yep.
I actually, the tightness of the thing, I actually see this as a chrysalis. The whole thing overall is a chrysalis. That's why I scored it what I did.
Yep.
I love the communication.
Fantastic. No, Peter, you can't. Next print, please. We have a silver with distinction, 85. Okay, I'll ask Craig for a comment. Oh, no, I did that you last time, didn't I? Cameron.
Yeah, an intriguing piece. I really enjoyed this. A sort of a play on roadkill with the sort of tyre track leading in at the bottom there. And I really enjoyed the sort of semi-transparent nature of the wallabies, sort of seeing the skeleton coming through, and I just really enjoyed the colour palette as well.
Thank you. Next print, please. The sound levels are okay up the back, are they? A little bit, okay. A little bit more grunt. We have a silver award at 82. Charmaine, you certainly may.
Yeah, I love this image. I just wonder with the crop whether the author can look at the crop, the placement of that flower.
So the flower's a little bit close to the edge,
To
or
the
not,
edge,
not
yeah.
close
Or-
enough?
No, the flower's too close to the edge. Maybe centre the flower or give it a bit more space.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. So we have our illustrative category sponsored by AZO, and we've got a very loud Tony Hewitt next door, I think, who's overwhelming us all with his comments about the wonderful AZO monitors, so we have to forgive him. Yet our judges, despite the noise levels, are doing a wonderful job, thank you. We have an 83 and a silver award. Peter, yes, would you like to make a comment?
Just as a tip, firstly, a very strong composition and pattern, but I studied very, went really in close to the three of them, and they're direct copies of each other. And I think it's far more interesting and clever to create three different animals unless there was a particular reason for, as if they've been cloned, and I couldn't find that. So I think it would have been stronger had they made three just slightly quirky different animals instead of just bang, 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 slightly different in size.
Thank you, Peter. Next print, please. So we have our 5 judges, Kay Davis, Cameron Attree, Charmaine Heyer, Peter Rossi and Craig Wetchen. We try normally to keep Charmaine and Peter apart because they always seem to be together, but it's wonderful to have 2 AIPP Grandmasters judging alongside our New Zealand Grandmaster Kay Davis. This print is a silver with distinction at 86. Kay, it was interesting that everybody went pretty close straight up to that point, and it's right there in the middle of a silver with distinctions band. Why do you think that is?
I think it's got a really strong story. It's an emotive story of a child that's lost a sibling, and I guess the destruction that comes after it. With signs of drinking from the parents and things like that, and just the sense of dysfunction within the family. And I think, it's a very powerful story.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. So while the audience is out there watching proceedings, imagine you were one of the 5 judges and you had to give a score, and then how you'd think about everybody in the room knowing what you had just scored, the picture as it comes up on the screen. And we have a average score of 71. And Cameron, I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah, I scored at 68, just under the professional practice.
So so how could the photographer improve?
time of day will probably help with this, with the lighting.
So the quality of the light?
Quality of the light, it's pretty flat and a little bit boring.
So when they say flat light, what are we meaning?
No contrast.
No contrast?
Yeah, so we're looking for some direction in light, some
Direct-
highlight
yep,
and
yep,
shadow.
Yep.
And also, just that other little added bit of element to keep our attention in there.
So we're wanting a little spark, like the old lady with the red umbrella, but
Yeah.
maybe something a little less
Yeah, a
trite.
little
Yeah.
Easter egg that you find when
Yep.
you're looking close. Yeah.
Thanks very much. That's great. Next print, please. The illustrative category is probably our broadest and most challenging category in many ways, because we get such a diversity of images that come through. Sometimes they are actually designed as illustration, as was perhaps originally the intent, but these days it's more perhaps a matter of self-expression, self-expression as much as anything else. Thank you, judges. We have a majority 84. So it's a silver award. So what we mean is that although the average is 85, three of the judges are below the silver with distinction award. However, it will go to another room for consideration, and they may put it up to silver with distinction or leave it where it is. We'll go for the... I've got a comment. Sorry, some eye contact from someone. Yep, okay, thank you.
I don't have anything in terms of improving the image, but I just really enjoy the dimensional quality that's actually been presented, and it's an interesting, unique subject matter which has been beautifully handled.
Thank you. Next print, please. So we have an average of 67. Craig, you've made eye contact. That's good. Sometimes the entrants are newcomers. Sometimes they're brand masters trying something completely different. So what does the photographer have? What do we feel as judges that the photographer has missed?
Some of the elements are out of focus, and I think better control of the highlight coming, and
So what do you mean by control of the highlight?
controlling your exposure on that part. And
So it's too bright?
it's too bright.
Yep.
But I think the main key here is the two towers that are in between the smoke there from the towers. Is out of focus.
Is out of focus. And if that's an important part of the image,
Absolutely.
we generally expect that to be in focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you. Next print, please. We have a score of 74. And Mr. Rossi, are you around about there? Yeah, maybe. Yep, we'll have a couple of comments from you. So 74, we've got a architectural study. From my angle, I'm at the side here, so I can't necessarily quite tell. How would the photographer take this from professional practice to higher professional practice, perhaps?
you can always play with the cropping. What detracted from me is the fact that I discovered that it was a cut and split, and yes, for the design of it makes it quite interesting, like an arrow coming through. Had they maybe, it looks like a very interesting building, and I wonder, maybe just left in its reality, maybe with some interest, maybe extra gradation from the top down, just something to give it a little wow. It just seems to be there, and it's something you can look at and walk on. There's nothing to hold you. Maybe a bird, maybe a person committing suicide at the top. I don't know.
Thank you, Peter. I'm glad you had your coffee at the break. That was good. No, great comments. Thank you. Next print, please. So consistent judging there at 77, professional practice. Yes, Kay, you made eye contact with me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I'm not believing in the story in terms of because of the expressions in the faces. I think there need to be a little bit more in character with what's actually happening, and also maybe control the highlights. And I think that you're being distracted by the highlights rather than looking at the expressions.
So the highlights are brighter than the actual faces, which is what we think the subject is. Is that okay? Thank you very much. No, Peter, I'm not going to let you make a comment, but I am going to ask you if you'd like to sit down, and I'm going to invite Hilary Hand to come to the dais, please. Thank you. We'll go for the next print. So we have a score of 79, and Cameron has put his hand straight up. Cameron, you're on 84, and the other scores are 78, well, 3 78s and a 77.
Yeah, I can see that's coming. I believe what we're looking at is an aerial image, which on its own is very nicely handled. I do love the colour palette, it's beautiful. But what I kind of see here is almost like a detail of a land, or detail of the close-up of the land with vertebrate of an animal, like a fossil. And that's what gave me that extra added interest that kept me looking at it and intrigued me. And that's what I thought it was worth a solid silver.
Okay. Any other judges, or I'm going to pick someone like Hilary to talk?
Is it on? Yeah. I saw the vertebrae. I just would have liked it a little bit more in the image. I mean, the way it disconnects the top was fantastic. And it could have just been worked maybe a little bit more to give us more story about it. I just was a bit lost, I think.
Okay. Craig, you're interested in adding?
Yeah, I'm interested a little bit more because I think I can probably maybe help you out, Hillary. The connection is there's still a little bit of life with the cartilage in between the vertebrae. You know, you got decay, but yet you still got a bit of life. So I don't know, maybe you can work on that, Cam.
I love the imagination, Craig. It's awesome. Right of reply?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. That summed that up quite nicely. Yeah, I see this quite strongly as a play on both aspects of, you know, a larger view of the landscape and then a more detailed view as well. And that vertebrate is quite obvious, but for some. And overall, I just think that the story is there and is worthy of rewarding the author a silver.
Thank you. Judges, if you'd like to rescore. Cameron, yours will be held at 84. And movement was made. We have a silver award at 80. Thank you. Some great comments there. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Peter, excuse me, Mr. Langford, I'll get you to jump in for one print, please. We have a silver award at 83. Raucous applause from the audience. Thank you. And Charmaine, a comment, please. Yeah.
I found this image really strong, but what really annoyed me and kept me going to the next level was the pale line between the two main dogs. I just felt that was really, really distracting. So if that could have been addressed and maybe a little bit more burning in or darkening off the edges, so it just kept me in there and made them even stronger looking, I would have gone up to the next level.
Okay, very quickly, Cameron.
Yeah, this image I believe is a homage to a scene from Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs.
Yep.
And that's what really got me into it, and I gave it an 84. I really wanted to go higher into silver distinction because of that, but because of those elements that Charmaine just mentioned, some distracting elements in the background could have been fixed.
Thank you. Next print, please. We have a majority of 79, and so the print will go next door for review at some stage. I'm going to ask for, actually I might get Charmaine to make a quick comment.
Yeah, I feel the colour palette was quite nice. Just that kind of a wet spot in the middle, that sort of muggy little round spot. Not sure if that adds to the image. And I'd probably like something else to take take me of the image to go up to the silver. I was happy with it at 78, but.
So
Bit
when you
more
say something else,
Yeah, well, just some more finessing in the print, or maybe a bit more contrast, or maybe a different paper texture.
Yep.
And I'm not sure about that little sort of dark circle there in the centre, whether that's working or not. Probably it takes away it from the image for me.
okay, thank you very much. And we're going to give you a break now too. We're going to bring in Mike Langford, and we're going to go to the next print, please. The audience, one of the challenges as a judge is that, it's one thing you've got to give it a score, and then of course you're sitting there and hoping like hell that I don't ask you to comment about it, because you've got to come up with some reasons for why the print went up, down, and it can be challenging. Do you talk about the lighting? Do you talk about the composition? Do you talk about the gesture? And so there is a bit of a vocabulary, and sometimes photographers use a lot of jargon, and so every now and then I'm trying to just tease out what they really mean by, something's a bit hot. And that's not normally a curry, it's normally how light the print is. We have a score of 74. Mike, I comment, so we're professional practice. What is the photographer missing when it comes to perhaps an award or a higher score?
Well, creating some spaces that have no meaning to me. You need to put things in that actually support the main subject. The main subject, you see it, but then you don't quite understand the message of why have you done the rest of it. So I think it's just visually very confusing for us.
So maybe in this we're saying that you've got a lot of information on the right and there's the negative space on the left, but no necessarily you don't understand why the balance is there. Is that what you're getting at? Or?
Well, it's more like there is a person looking out of this chaos, and I'm not quite sure what the chaos is meaning.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Next print, please. So we haven't been able to update the system at the moment, judges, so there may be a slight hiatus. So can we just have a blank screen, please? And we'll ask the judges to look at that print again. You can keep your thoughts, of course, but we will get you to look at it a second time. And Sue is onto it. Sue Lewis, that is. Now, Sue, of course, for those in the audience might know that behind the scenes here, there is a whole city of workers, little worker bees and ants all running around doing stuff. And the queen bee is Sue Lewis. And she's that. Hey, thank you. And she is the one who has the dulcet tones coming over the microphone every now and then, telling us what's about to happen and what's not going to happen. And I know that if I keep talking about Sue in this way, I know that I'm going to be in deep trouble later on. So we better change it. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant she was talking again. I was talking over her. Then I would have been the end of me. So, okay, so we need to talk about something else, Mike. What are we going to talk about? So, why haven't you been skiing more than you have already this year?
Been doing too much judging.
So which do you prefer, Mike? Coronet Peak or the Remarkables? Because I would have thought someone like you'd have to go to the Remarkables.
The Remarkables aren't, it's just a name, it's overrated.
Okay.
The Coronet Peak is the best runs for sure.
What about, was it Cardona up the road?
Cardrona.
Cardrona, yeah. Was that where all of the dirt baggers go? I mean, the snowboarders go.
Yeah. Have you been skiing this year, Peter?
No, I haven't been skiing this year, but I'm hoping to go off to Park City early next year, which should be fun. I'm just a bit worried because Nuran and I went to Iran a couple of months ago, and so to get back into America, I've had to actually get myself a full-on visa. But the process was very straightforward. forward, no problems whatsoever. So far, I believe that I will be granted access. So fingers crossed.
So hopefully you don't get trumped.
I don't. Now, I do actually have a Donald Trump story, but unfortunately, it might take a little bit long, so I can't tell you just at the moment unless we know how long we've got. But yeah. So, Cameron, so we need to talk about the Queensland experience, and I just want to know: have you got, coming from Queensland as you do, and the greatest love and respect I have for our northern neighbours? Do you have white shoes on today? Oh, no microphone. Hey, we're turning him off. Try again.
No, I don't have
white shoes.
On.
Why not?
And I don't actually get the reference.
So, well, everybody drives a Mercedes and wears white shoes up in the Gold Coast.
I thought that was the Northern Beaches.
Northern Beaches. All righty. Enough of my frivolities. We are actually ready to roll again. Thank you kindly. We'll have the next print again. So, judges, if you'd just like to go through the process, have another look, refresh your memories, and then come back and score. So we have a score of 77. Hilary, I look at some very well put together images. If I were the dancer, I would be very happy with the way I've been captured. So in an awards context, why have we not perhaps elevated this into silver, do you think?
Well, I can only speak for myself, of course, but I don't see the three fitting together particularly. I would have probably scored higher if it had just been one of those images. Because they are beautiful and it's a lovely. Each individual photograph is beautiful. I just didn't see that they communicated together anything special.
Yep. So in the case of sometimes less is more.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right. Quickly, Mike.
Just a little bit of passion from the dancers and their expression would have really lifted this a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Next print, please. It's poison, mate. Sugar. Thanks. Okay, we have an average of 87. We have a challenge from Craig, who's on 93. Craig, it's an interesting panel, 81, 88, 84 and 87.
Sorry, just I'm choosing my words here. I have a feeling the more you look at this, the more actually you're building a narrative. So we've got a maze and journey of a gentleman and a lady. So for the audience, we're looking at shoes marching through a maze. And as the shoes, let's take on the journey. Photographically, it's sublime. I mean, you can't change anything photographically. There's some beautiful tonality going on here. But the narrative, this is where it's just singing to me. So you've got a narrative of the journey of the man. He comes into some corners, meeting some women on the way through the maze and journey through life. And the ladies have the same sort of journey. They meet the men, they meet in the corners, so on and so forth, and all of a sudden they meet in the middle. And when they meet in the middle, that's where the grass is grown. That's where the family, the life, and the symbolism of meeting in the middle is really charged for me. So I'm going to save a little bit for later.
Actually, no, first I'm going to go for Cameron.
Thank you, Craig, for that narrative. I was struggling to find the narrative. I couldn't quite interpret what all the different shoes meant, so that's helped a lot. I thought it was a beautifully presented image. I've had a couple of little issues with just the shadow sort of areas breaking up and looking a little bit soft around the maze, but that's being quite picky technically. I'm happy to listen a lot more to the other judges' comments, definitely.
Kay, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, for me, again, Craig, I picked up on the story. It's about meeting Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, or whatever it might be that you're going through life, through each individual going through life is a journey. You're meeting different people along the way, but that person's not necessarily the right person. So, in terms of that you're meeting the right person. I guess for me, why I maybe have held it out of gold, and I am listening, is whether it's too blaring in terms of I'm confronted with this great big image, whether to me having it smaller, being a little bit more intricate may help. And I mean, that's just a minor thing, but I enjoy the interpretation of the story.
Hilary?
I love this story, and I was hovering between silver distinction and gold, and I think it was the emotional impact that it was just lacking for me, because you've got the bloke when he's walking through, you've got those little shoes. Now I'd have loved to see, if there was a child involved, whether it was his or the woman he was with, a little bit of something with those shoes, because that's really a turbulent time for a child with a relationship breakup. Maybe if they had been sort of a little bit broken or tossed, or just some tiny little bit more to take me up into the gold where we really want an emotional impact. But apart from that, I thought it was really a beautiful image, and I'm really happy with it in silver distinction.
Thank you, Hilary. Mike, and then we'll finish off with Craig's right to reply.
Yeah, I got this to 84 without understanding anything. So the story, thank you, Craig, because the story, I tried really hard to find it. And starting at 84 with just a graphic in front of me, which is what got me to 84, and using the entire palette of this 16 by 20, I'm sort of looking at it and going, this is bold, this is fresh, this is telling us a different story in a different way. And when you gave me the narrative, I'm straight at gold.
Craig? We get the narrative. The color palette is just is sublime. I mean, you've got pink shoes, green shoes, blue shoes, the whole kit and caboodle. But as you highlighted here, the photographer has used the entire mat board and has this journey from entering to the left, bottom left, entering to the top right, and that's where it. Now we're talking, an outstanding visual communication and interpretation of the journey and connection that we as humans have to go through to meet Mr. Right and Mrs. Right. So, that alone for the imagination and the creativity for a remarkable technique to be presented this way, and they've met right there next to the tree. That is the spice of life. That's what's given this extra life. Because trees, foliage, that's what gives this extra life. That is drawing the extra connection. So you're with me, Mike. I really encourage you guys all to reward this photographer into a gold. I've scored it a 93. My score stays. you guys can come up with me to gold for that visual interpretation.
Judges, if you'd like to rescore, please. $92, gold award. Thank you, judges. Next print, please. Peter, could you just step up for one print for Craig, please? Yeah, just. We have a score of 77. And Hilary, I'm going to ask for a comment, please.
The story I'm reading is it's someone with maybe dementia or something like that. If that's the case, I would have liked to have a little more dramatic lighting, maybe a little bit more drama in the photograph, because it's a terrible thing.
So the
to
light's
suffer
a little
from.
bit front on, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. Next print, please. We have a silver award at 83. Cameron, I'm going to ask you to make a comment.
Yeah, really interesting image, well constructed. Something that could be improved is just to watch the printing. The shadow area is a little bit green coming through there, so that could be improved.
Okay, so just a technical issue there. Thank you for the advice. Next print, please. We have a score of 74. So solid professional practice, but Mike, maybe not quite into the award standard. Why so?
Because it's not taking us past what it is. So there's no intrigue, there's no development. It's just a great shot of a wave breaking. It needs to actually deliver more than that.
Thank you. Next print, please. We're judging the illustrative category of the Australian Professional Photography Awards, and this category is sponsored by AZO monitors. If you haven't checked out the AZO monitors, they've got a stand over the corner over there, And they're certainly worth going and just seeing how amazing your photographs can look. And if you're lucky, you might see one of mine flashing past on the screen. So not that I've got an ego or anything like that. And we have a score of 74. Kay, you were laughing at my comments, so I'm going to ask you to make a comment on this print, please.
Yeah, I guess an interesting perspective perhaps of some sort of illustrating some sort of mental illness. I think just be careful of the highlights on the hands and that are a little bit bright, so they need to be toned down, just so that the emphasis goes towards the face rather than the hands.
Thank you, great advice. Next print, please. Peter, could you just step in, please? Well, I'm done, aren't we? If I'm locked off. We have a 76 professional practice. And Hillary, a quick comment from you, if I may.
Yeah, I think a little bit better control of some of the light in it. There's a little white, it's not a stamen, I don't think, but it's very bright right inside by the yellow. And the very light bit of the flower in the background could be darkened. I mean, it's illustrative. You could take it out altogether, I guess, if you wanted.
Thank you. So a little care in post-production or even in the original lighting could help. Thank you very much. Next print, please. For the audience, when a judge will from time to time step back, and they're entitled to do that. We don't ask their reason. They might know the author. Hopefully it's not their photograph. They just might not be comfortable judging that particular style, or they feel that there might be a prejudice against it. So we don't ask. We just say, if you don't feel comfortable judging, step back and we'll put somebody else in. So we encourage that to ensure as much fairness as possible. It's hard to go for an objective approach with such a subjective process. We have a score of 73, a professional practice. And Mike, I'm going to ask for a comment as to how the photographer could perhaps take this a few points further ahead.
Yeah, the post-production work has completely overtaken the natural lighting of the event. So instead of taking it further with post-production, they've taken it away from being better. So when you do go into post-production, just be careful that you actually aren't ruining the aesthetic that exists already. So I think they've gone too far.
It's from my side, it's a little bit of the highlight shadow. It's a little bit HDR. Is that what you're getting at in terms of the tonality?
It's that as well, but there is no connection between that person and the environment that they're in.
Gotcha.
They've separated them out.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That's great. Next print, please. Maybe I'll get you to do. Or I can bring someone in. We have a solid silver at 84. And I think I'm going to ask, okay, Craig, we'll give you a go since I'm going to boot you off after this one anyway.
You're going to boot me off. Well, look, this is tonally, it's just beautiful. It really is. The photographer's really held the tonality through that. To go a next level, Yeah, I think it sits right where it sits. I don't know where else it could go, to be honest.
Okay,
It's just
thank you.
the simplicity is beautiful.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And we'll switch you out and invite Peter Rossi to the judging seats. Make sure you get your chocolate fixed before you go, Craig. That's quite okay. We will be adding that to your bill. Okay, next print, please. We have a score of 79, so the print will go next door for review. Hillary, 79, so, oh, you don't want to? No, that's all right. Kay's put her hand up. She's really keen to have a chat.
Yeah.
Kay.
I don't see a connection between the two images, which is I guess for me the strongest part of it. Also, there's some shallow depth of field used within the left-hand image, which isn't repeated or introduced to keep some sort of cohesion in the right image, and it's also sort of the details getting lost in the blacks.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next print, please. We have an average score of 66. Mike, yeah, if you like, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, the palette's really flat in terms of this lack of contrast. There's also a lack of a focus point. If the eye had somewhere to go and to rest, it would give it more interest. So it's just a bit empty.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Next print, please. We have a score of 82, a silver award. Mr. Rossi.
I think it's quite clever the way this person has made something out of what most of us would call almost nothing. And at 82, I feel it stands there as a great illustration, but as a point of or a possible suggestion to follow, maybe making one or two squares in very interesting compositional positions stand out even more, like would direct our eye a little more rather than whoa, heaps of it, where I'd like to be taken on a little journey, or one or two to be maybe stronger than the others.
Thank you, Peter. Great suggestion. Next print, please. We have a 76, so professional practice. And who's making... Oh, thank you, Hillary. That'd be great.
As soon as you let me off before. I really wanted to love this. I mean, I'm a horse person and I love landscapes. But it just, I don't know that it was handled particularly well. And the clouds are very heavy and feel a bit overworked, and a little bit better lighting, maybe a different time of day, and get just a bit more drama into it. And I'd have really loved this.
Thank you very much. Great advice. Next print, please. So we have a 78 professional practice, very consistent scoring there. Mike, some suggestions perhaps? I mean, we're just shy of silver. What does the entrant need to do to establish a silver award?
Mostly the sky at the top. The rest of the image, I believe, would be a silver award, but it's just so clunky at the top in terms of oversaturated, darkened too much. Doesn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the image, and so it pulls the whole image down.
So just those small little areas. Yeah, Peter, did you want to?
And I don't know if I'm really allowed to do this, but we had a very similar shaped image 35 prints ago, and I think there is a great series here, and I saw in the walkthrough, I think there are 4 exactly like this. What caught my eye on the first one, the child was going into the lolly shop. Here the child is going past the dentist shop. There's a big tooth on the side. So I can feel a story coming. I want to see the other 2 up close, but they're all single prints and won't get a chance to work together unless they make the finals.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to do a judge change. Thank you. Kay, we're going to spot you out. We're going to bring Charmaine in. And we're going to see the next print out the back. Thank you, Ken and Miranda. We're in the middle of the day of the illustrative section. Judges are firing, doing well. Every time I start talking, it prompts them into action, which is wonderful. So we have a score of 84. Solid silver, and we'll go next door for review and potentially come up to a silver with distinction. Yeah, Mike, please, a comment.
I felt this could have done much, much better. Had I not kept reading the words that were in the background, it really detracted from making my eye really invest into this illustration. But anytime you put words in, they have to have some huge dynamic influence instead of a detraction. So I'd recommend not putting words into a picture.
So thank you, Mike. Next print, please. So the Australian Professional Photography Awards this year has 3 platinum sponsors: Olympus, Aon and Panasonic, and thanks to Olympus, Aon and Panasonic for supporting the AIPP and our awards. We have a score of 78 of professional practice, and I'm going to ask Charmaine, so 78, we're just shy of the award standard. What's the difference between high professional practice like this and award standard, do you think?
I think the colour palettes were really aqueous and nice. I just think I'd like a bit more texture or visible texture in the image, and also maybe the cropping to look at, and maybe the white highlight to be toned down a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes when prints come up, they can look a little bit lighter than when you see them back at home or in the studio. And so understanding what the APPA lighting is all about is very important.
And to have it played with the composition of this image as well.
Thank you very much. Great. Next print, please. We have a score of 76. That's, again, solid professional practice. And Hillary, a comment perhaps. What's good about the picture, and how do we perhaps take it a little bit further towards the award category?
I love the tones through this. And I'm not sure. Whatever the overlay with the white line and the little dots and stuff, I'm just not sure why we've got them there, and I don't feel it adds to the image, and yet the human form is lovely and soft, and I don't know whether there's any angst in it or anything else, but I'd have got rid of all that overlay stuff. I think that's really pulled it down for me.
Thank you, and the other judges are nodding in agreement, so thank you for those comments. Except for you, Peter. Whereas Peter liked it. Well, it's good to know that there's a judge, because there are 5 opinions, so thank you, Peter. Next print, please. I guess one of the advantages of being in the audience and watching a live stream is you do see all of the judges' scores drop. And so when you end up with an average of 78, but there are a couple of judges there who gave it 82, man, do you love those 2 judges. They were awesome, weren't they? And we're going to love 4 of these judges at least, because we have a score of 80 and a silver award. Peter's looking at me and he would like to make a comment. And Peter, you're right on the average, so I'd be delighted to take a comment from you, please.
I took my eye all over this beautiful detail. Yes, was enjoying that, but what are they really saying? What's the photographer trying to tell me, rather than a great shot of a church? Then after, I could have walked away a little too early, but then I spotted the person in the maybe homeless, maybe beggar, whoever, whatever outfit that doesn't usually fit the church scene, and I thought, yes, okay, churches can be for everybody. I understand there's a storyline. So to maybe just through lighting, you don't want to have a bright red beggar in the front, but just by accentuating the lighting around that person would have pulled me straight to the person rather than to the Virgin Mary at the back first.
Understand.
And I would have got the story quicker.
Yep. Great advice. Thanks, Pete. Yep. Excellent. Thank you. Next print, please. And that's often a great opportunity for entering the state awards beforehand, or we've got print critique nights where you get to ask people like Peter Rossi for their advice. I figure I need to come back and ask him for advice too. He keeps on winning awards year after year. The only person that annoys me more is Charmaine, his partner, because she seems to be doing even better. And like true professionals, they're ignoring everything I'm saying, which is good. We have a silver award at 80. So Charmaine, we're going to see from the real brains up from up there in Cairns now. We want to hear from you this time. Thank you.
About this print, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, look, I would have scored this print higher than that because I feel that possibly the message that the authors tried to display here is the struggle that plants have in this stone and stuff, the actual struggle of survival. But the belief being so big, but I've scored it silver because I love the concept. I'm not sure if that's water there in front of it there, so the water's so close, but it's not getting to it. So I saw that as the struggle that plants have in stone and that to survive.
Yeah, and the colour palette, the
Colour
tonality,
palette
the
was beautiful.
presentation.
It's very earthy,
Yep.
added to the story. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Some of the entries that we get when we're asked to comment are very easy. It's very obvious what to say to make an improvement, and others are a little bit more tangential. It's a little bit harder to sort of, after years and years of judging that the picture's just not quite there, but how do you actually articulate that shortfall, and that can be a challenge. So we have a score of 76. And we're going to ask Cameron to make a comment if he could bring his eyes back to the front. That'd be
Sure.
great. I'm stirring. All good. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely image. There's would have been helped with a bit more shadow detail, perhaps in that mountain on the edge there. But I know that's a lot of difficult in a strong backlit situation like that. But it's just a lot of black empty space, which takes up a lot of real estate and gives us nothing to look at.
Thank you. I'm going to let you have a break, Cameron. Is it Craig next? Are you back in, or is it Kay? Who did I turf off first? I'm just trying to work out. Were you turfed off first, Craig, or was it Kay? Okay, come on in. Kay, you just sit back and relax, enjoy the break, enjoy life. That's good. Next print, please. We have an 84 by majority, and so it's a silver award. And who's looking at me? Yeah, I guess, Peter, you're looking expectantly. You'd like to make a comment, please?
Yeah, I'm feeling the difference in tone between the men and the beautiful created building, or whether it was created in the computer or by an architect, whatever, is just too extreme. and I'm also not feeling that the men are really there. I don't see a shadow. They don't feel grounded. I almost can feel their placement at a later date. So there's an unreality to it that possibly could be worked on.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. That's our next problem. So we have a silver with distinction at 85. Who am I going to have a chat? Maybe you, Charmaine?
Love to have a chat about this print. Oh wow, this print is incredible. I would have loved to have gone higher with this print, but I just felt that for the storyline and what could have been, the author could probably finesse it to make it more powerful. I feel the lighting is just too harsh for the storyline, and what I'm reading into it maybe is that if that's a mirror there that he's looking into, it's doom and gloom, and then the outside it's bright. So there's lots of connotations you could take from this picture. But I feel the lighting and the time of the day is just too harsh, and it's killing the emotion that I want to feel.
Thank you. Thanks, Charmaine. Next print, please. Silver with distinction at 85. Very consistent judging there, wasn't it, Craig? Comment from you, please.
Yeah, look, I'm getting the transition of life, the circle of, the moon and the how the moon affects, or that, but I just want some more to take it probably into another level, and just I'm missing a connection somewhere, but it sits perfectly where it is from an emotive and an imagination.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think we should celebrate the fact that it's a silver with distinction. I agree with you. Thank you. Next print, please. We have 84, a good strong silver. And no, I'm going to give Hillary a bash at the microphone this time.
Thank you. Oh, this is a really interesting print. There's and people maybe on live streaming won't see, but there's a fish with a hook in the belly of the dead bird or the skeleton of the bird. I would have gone higher. It's just, I presume they're supposed to be tears, but they kind of look just a bit dorky on it. Is that a word? I don't know.
Tis
a
now.
bit unreal, yeah. Everything but those, and the design of it is beautiful.
Peter, yeah, sure, quickly.
If this picture will be out on the wall, and I would encourage everybody to go and have a look at it. I agree, yes, the teardrops feel more like rice grains. That I'd have gone gold otherwise. But the detail I'd love people to look at is in the low down in the body of the bird are eggs with little tiny bird skeletons in them. Well, like, wow,
Okay.
that's pretty good.
Thank you very much.
Go and have a look and be moved by that.
Thank you, Peter. Next print, please. Just grab Karen and see whether she can. Well, we might have it. We have a score of 76, solid professional practice, and who's, oh, okay, I'm going to have to pick someone I can see. Hillary is on 77, so you're the closest one, you lucky
Am I?
girl.
Yes. It's quite a nice print. I guess I was expecting a little bit more story in it. I mean, I can see there people. It's, I would imagine, down in Tassie with the Dark Festival or whatever they have, and there's people in the dark walking into buildings, but maybe a bit more storytelling, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. We have a score of 75, and Mr. Langford is going to help us along. Professional practice, Mike? What
It
do we
is.
need?
The separation of the chair against the dark works really well. What doesn't work is the messiness of the shadow against the pavement. It's just too busy for it to reiterate that clean graphic shape.
Yes, I understand. Yep, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to have a judge change. Hillary, we're going to give you a little break for a run around the block and a cup of coffee. And Kay Davis from New Zealand. Please, look at this. Look at this row of Craig, I hope you're not feeling intimidated with all these Grand Masters sitting next to you, mate. I'd be feeling intimidated. You're on the road. That's right. Excellent. Okay, next print, please. That's the way. So we have a silver award at 82. K is a nice strong colour in there. Is that what got it the 82, or is it too strong? Where do we go? What's your comment?
I'm not sure I can comment in terms of how I'd improve it, but I think it's just a beautiful image. It's just velvety. The lighting is beautiful. The sharpness is where it needs to be. It's just a really beautiful study of this, I'm assuming, orchid. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. So there's no more. Okay. So we have a score of 79. And yes, you can, Mike. So Mike's on 84, 3 78s and a 76. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I just found this visually very, very unique, unusual, challenging. Not quite sure what it is, not quite sure what it's supposed to say, but I haven't seen it. It's got my imagination ticking over. In terms of lighting, it's beautifully lit, it's beautifully printed, beautifully presented, unusual. If someone can help me out with what it is, that'll be great.
Anybody else like to comment? Kay?
Yeah, in terms of interpreting what I guess, I mean, the subject to me is a woman that's just been spiraled round. I'm not sure whether that's what you're meaning by understanding what it is. It is an interesting image, but I'm not sure whether it's, whether it's working for. I don't feel it's working for me, and I find the vignetting's probably a little bit hard too.
Thank you. Mike, right of reply. Oh, Peter, did you want to say something? Yeah, please.
Even though I do enjoy images at times where I don't understand them, but whether it's design, light, play, everything, but I feel a shortcoming with this image that they haven't directed us a little more. There's the human body, there are so many places to go, doesn't sound right. There are so many issues that people have with bodies that could have been explored or displayed, easier for us to see and to go, oh yes, that there's something to learn here. But I just felt, yes, as interesting as the shape is, almost tree-like, it left me no better for having seen it.
Mike?
Yeah, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm sort of feeling like it's a person who's wrapped up in themselves. It's a bit of egocentricity. It's someone that's inaccessible to us because we can't see features, we can't see emotions. We've got this really tight body that's not being accessed, and I'm sort of reading it in terms of illustrating an idea, and if that's the idea, then I think it's illustrated it beautifully.
The score is 79 at the moment, but yes, there are 3 78s, a 76 and an 84. So if you'd like to rescore, Judge, yep. Are they coming through? Nope. Oh. So, judges, if you could remember your scores, because there's actually going to be a place for a little break, and I'm going to do something that we don't normally do at APPA, but if you could just give your scores to Greg because we've got a problem here, it's stopped. I'm going to actually invite the author to show you what we've really just judged. This is out of the order, but Mark, if you would like to come up. You have got no more than 30 seconds to show it. But this is augmented 3D reality, so. Microphone, yeah.
Thank you very much. This is the first time that we've seen a 2D
Close to your
print
mic, close to your mouth.
that has the basis of photorealistic 3D modelling in the place of augmented reality. So I'm just going to put this microphone down and show you what I mean.
So I'll just talk a little bit over the top if you're doing. So what we've got is the basis for 3D, and when you look at it through the monitor, you see that there's a 3D subject there. So in some ways, Mark is grandstanding his technique here for APPA as a first, just to try and get people to look at and understand it. And it's interesting how we can judge things on all different levels, but you can see that it's quite different. So for the audience behind, what we're seeing is an iPad being pointed at the print, and then when you look at the image on the iPad, you see a three-dimensional image being rotated around. And there are all sorts of different variations. Mark, I'm going to have to throw you off, but thank you very much for sharing that with us. Thank you. Challenge for the future. That's what's coming. And interestingly enough, which is probably inappropriate, but we've got the scores in. Mark, you got a silver award. Now, for those who are out there, that has been my executive decision, is to let Mark do that. We don't normally do that, but he's not here to win the big prize or anything here. He's here to challenge all of us as to how we should think about the future and where we're going. So thank you very much. Pushing the envelope. Okay, thank you. Next print, please. Keep an eye on it. We have a score of 78. No? Okay, sure. All right. So we're going to have a comment then from Charmaine, please.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what if they're rabbits or what they are. And I would like definitely more clarity in the figures.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether the background's adding to it or taking away. It's probably taking it away from me.
Okay. It's a challenging print to comment on, isn't it? I agree. But thank you for your comment. 78, professional standard. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. We have a silver with distinction at 86. Mike, you looked happy about that. Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I think it's a great story, well told. It's from my imagination, the story is a rural landscape becoming dominated by the thirst of power. And it's been everything in here, the tone, the darkness, the broodiness, everything's added to that. I think it's really intelligent. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you, judges. We have a score of 74, so professional standard. Did you mean you wanted to make a comment? Yes, please. Okay.
Look, it's a very beautiful landscape. It reminds me of chocolate boxes and things like that are really valid in the context of what they communicate. Unfortunately, with this, the barn is the dominant part of it, and it ruins that whole aesthetic. So be careful of what you leave in your photograph to reinforce the
So
taste.
you saying spot it out, or maybe just darken it down?
Well, it's illustrative. You can do anything you like, but it shouldn't be there.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right. Now, Mike, you've been a great soldier. We're going to give you a break. We're going to bring Cameron back into the fray. Next print, please. We have an 81 Silver Award. So, Craig, a quick comment from you, please.
Yeah, I was. Look, it's a highly emotive and provocative and sensitive style shot. What I would probably change, I think, a better blending between the legs and the door. It just seems like the some retouching issues maybe potentially there. Maybe a change of the way they've lit it, throw the shadow to create some more 3-dimension between the legs and the garage door. Probably would have made it even more believable. But
Thank you.
It's take me there.
Thank you, Craig. Next print, please. We have a score of 76. Kay, a quick comment from you, perhaps?
Yeah, interesting. No, great story. I feel maybe it's technically let down. I'm not the print quality or image quality lets it down, and maybe even consider things like the highlights a little bit blown out.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. We have a score of 74. And there, no. No's going to get Cameron actually to make a quick comment, if I may, please.
Yeah, professional standard sits quite nicely there. I guess probably like my other judges, I was looking for something a little bit extra when I got up there. Looking for something interesting in the windows, but just wasn't there. But, nicely handled.
Thank you. Next print, please. Okay, we've got an 81, a silver award. We have the ability for a challenge. I love a challenge. Thank you, Mr. Rossi. You're on 86. You have got 82.75, 82.78. The floor is yours.
I'm really waiting to hear what the 70 people have to offer. The 75 and 78.
Now, I want to know what you like about it.
Yes, and now I will begin. The colour palette is so earthy and so appropriate for the dirty water hippopotamus environment. Absolutely just right. All the detail that you need in the animal in the front is perfect. The animals in the back give you an idea of the social structure of the hippopotamus community, but they don't detract from it at all. Once you've roamed around all of the beautiful detail of teeth, whiskers, eyes and things, then you go back and find the other minders waiting in the distance. I love the tonality, I love the gradation as it comes down heavier, everything leading to the subject matter, perfectly placed. In the middle, can't go past me to get anywhere else.
Craig.
The first thing that's just coming to my mind on the description of what I'm trying to say here is I find a competition between the subject and the background. The heaviness of the green background, and I just find it distracting. I love the texture. I sort of like what you're going on about, but I'm just really drawn away from the heaviness of the top.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same. I sort of feel that I love the image, but to me there's control that needs to happen, that can easily happen in this category in post-production. The lighting for me, I feel I'd like to have a little bit more directional lighting on the hippopotamus itself. Or I'm seeing a lot of more lightness on the right-hand side, which is drawing my eye away. What I'd also like to maybe see is even a slight catchlight, or just in the eyes of the hippopotamus, just to sort of bring some life, because this animal is showing us life with, I guess the action it's actually presenting us. And that's why I scored it in a professional standard.
Peter, right of reply. I haven't got eye contact from the other two, so I'm assuming they don't want to talk.
It's interesting how subjective photography and critiquing can be. All of these so-called againsts, I am struggling to see. Firstly, the harmony of colour between the foreground, the animal and the background, to me, couldn't have been handled any better. Catchlights, yes, there is a catchlight. Yes, it could have been slightly enhanced, but there is a catchlight in those eyes, and if you go up close, if you're not too scared to go up close, because it's really showing you its aggressive side, you will see those eyes, and those eyes are actually watching you. And look, to me, it really is a silver distinction and higher than an 81. So please come to me. Come with me. I'm 86.
Thank you, Peter. Judges, if you'd like to rescore, Peter's score will be held at 86. Something worked. 85, silver with distinction. Thank you, judges. Next to print, please. You guys all have coffee this morning or something together. I mean, yeah, 83, and we're only a point away. Silver award, solid silver. Kay, it just makes it so hard to pick someone to choose to talk about it, but since you're the only one that gave 83, I have to ask you.
I'm really not sure what I can say about the image. It is a beautiful image. It's been handled really, really well in terms of, I guess, the tonal control between all the elements that we're actually seeing, and just the subtlety as you look back into the distance, which creates a really nice three-dimensional aspect to it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm actually looking at in terms of subject matter, but there's beautiful detail in the image.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Next print, please. We have a silver award again at 81. Mr. Rossi, a comment from you. 81, it's silver, so we're already there.
Yeah. Congratulations. I'm really appreciating the work that the person has gone to. I can see many hours of work there, digital work, and guess what the message on the newspaper is? It's about the coming of digital. But as an improvement, I think some movement in those papers would give them a little more reality. They're just sort of floating, too sharp, too stiff. They haven't got a life. They haven't got the wind in them. They're halfway there. They've captured it. Now blur it, maybe.
Thank you. And with that, Peter, I'm going to retire you from the judging panel, and I'm going to bring Hillary in. Thank you. Next print, please. Printer scored 81, silver award. Charmaine, a high key image, is that what we call this?
Yes, we do. I would probably just like a little bit more detail, though, going off to the right, just to complete that square. I feel it's still keeping it soft, but it just falls short with that there.
Just a balance, compositional balance.
Yeah, compositional balance, for
okay.
sure.
Fantastic, thank you for that. Next print, please. We're at the Australian Professional Photography Awards. We're judging the illustrative category, sponsored by AZO Monitors. And if you're trying to edit and process your files so that you get a good print at the end of the day, there's nothing better than having a good quality monitor that gives you good feedback, so you know what you are actually doing is what you're ending up with. Which I'll make a little bit more sense after I've finished my job here. So please wait for part 2 of this sponsor's message. In the meantime, we have a 77, a high professional practice. And Hillary, maybe a comment. I understand you go over to Africa from time to time. What do we have here?
We have elephants, Peter.
Yeah,
I quite like this technique. It gives you a feeling of being in the herd, and I think if the photographer had an opportunity to do something similar again, I'd choose a different time of day and get a little bit more light in the eyes. Elephants are really hard to light their eyes. They're very sunken with big eyelashes, and you have to really pick the time of day, and I think that would have lifted it quite a lot.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. So returning to my little diatribe on AZO, when you're trying to work out what your print looks like, what your file looks like, then obviously the monitor that you're looking at needs to present the right tonal and colour information. Isn't that right, Mr. Langford? I understand you use an AZO monitor even over in New Zealand. You're an ambassador for AZO. That's very good of you. Is that correct? I do say that I'm a bit worried about Mr. Walkling's photograph over there on the ambassador roll. He looks far more elegant than me. Looks like he's about to climb Mount Everest, to be honest. We have a score of 78, high professional standard. Cameron, a lot of ideas and innovation sitting in that image. What does it need to do?
And we all looked at it for quite a long time, and I think we're all trying to get a narrative out of it, but maybe struggling to find that narrative. So I think that's why the scores landed where they were.
Okay, thank you. Next print, please. Ooh, very close. We have an 84 by majority, a silver award. Very, very consistent judging there. So this print will go next door and will be reviewed potentially for a silver with distinction. Who's making eye contact with me to make a comment? Okay, Craig, you're it.
Look, it's a gorgeous illustration. I'm just struggling with some connectivity issues, I think, more than anything.
So when you say struggling,
I'm trying to figure out the relationship between the elements. But I think it's a great
great sense of
design and incorporation of elements. But I'm trying to figure out. It's leaving me too many questions.
Okay.
And I can't answer them.
Okay. Thank you. Next print, please. With a score of 82, a silver award. Okay, a comment.
Just, I guess, an interesting perspective at how this photograph's been, the story that this photograph's telling us about, I guess, fossilization and I guess, life cycles, things like that. It's just nicely presented.
Thank you. Next print, please. So we have a score of 80 and a silver award. Hillary, I'm going to ask for a comment from you, if I may.
I scored this an 83 because I just love the texture and the colour palette. I have no idea really what it is. It looks like pillars and a construction of some sort, but I scored it purely on just the textural colour palettes and the design of it.
Thank you. Next print, please. A silver award at 83. Yeah, you can. Go for it, man. I love it. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. I've got a green button in front of me, so I can do it even quicker. Craig, you're on 88. You've challenged, and there's 78, 84, 82, 83.
What a really exquisite illustration of a flower. What really is exciting me a lot about this is an immense amount of tonal control that's going on within the element, within the subject matter. And look, I'm drawing on lots of inspiration on this shot from Imogen Cunningham or Edward Weston, the really immense control of tonality and separation between and layers. There's so many layers that's going on in this image. So that's why I've stuck it right in a silver distinction from the photographer's control in image quality, then presenting in control in print quality those beautiful use of tones and the use of light that's going on through this. So I really rewarded that photographer for presenting a really exquisite piece of illustration.
Thank you. Charmaine?
Yeah, I loved it too, Craig. But what really brought me down from even going into the silver, for the author to present us with something that was potentially gold, the petals on the flower on the left are really soft. There's one petal that's really soft, and I feel just killed it for me. I mean, the work that's in it already is just so great, but I would have expected the finesse to have gone right through, and that really just falls apart. I see it as possibly twins. I see it as a portrait of flowers, and the highlights on the flower on the right-hand side, to me, it's just a little bit too hot. But that left side is really... I could possibly go to silver because I think the potential of it is amazing, but the finesse I feel is just not there.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess for me, I put in silver, and I felt I was concerned about the fact that it is literally, again, a flip of the photograph, whether a flip of the flower, whether I'm looking for something where I'm looking for two different flowers. I mean, the treatment is the lighting and everything is beautifully, the tonal control is absolutely wonderful. But I guess that's what I'm looking for, is some differentiation between the two.
Yep, sure. Cameron?
I was almost up there with Craig. I gave it an 84. I really wanted to go a little bit higher. I've got no concerns with the flip. It's kind of a flip and then both vertically and horizontally. So you do have to kind of look quite hard to find that it is the exact same flower. And that, we're doing that from a perspective of judging the print quite critically. As a piece of art on the wall, no one's going to be that critical. They're going to, enjoy it as it is. What probably stopped me from going a little bit higher was just the amount of sort of black emptiness, and I wondered whether the author could have introduced a little bit of texture or something into the background just to tie in with the flowers as well. But, I'm almost there, so Craig, bring me home.
So I'm going to bring you guys home a little bit of this. I think if you had that texture in the background, it would have completely detracted from the element. I think, as a photographer and creating in the illustrative category, I don't want you guys to overthink this. I really want you guys to actually address what the photographer has created here. And you stand back here. There's a deliberate reason why those petals are out of focus. So I've got written here deliberate. And the deliberate aspect of that is to help create depth. So for a photographer to create something that could be so one-dimensional, but is creating some depth here through the control of tonal separation, that craft in creating that balance. So now we're creating some balance with this two-part. I think that's an added element of creativity. So I think we've got a real great play on what creates a beautiful image. And my interpretation of creating a beautiful image is light, subject, and composition. We've got beautiful light, we've got beautiful subject, and now we've got beautiful composition. So I've rewarded that photographer based on those points that I'm addressing there in a silver distinction.
Thank you, Craig. Sorry. Next, please judge. Oh, I'm catching up. Nearly lunchtime. Yes. Well spoken, 85, silver with distinction. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, we are going to take a lunch break. So, judges, you are most welcome to come to...